Hey Kyle, thanks for the introduction there. Yeah, we're talking about Bitcoin and interoperability. There's a ton of different chains out there, and people have tons of different assets on these chains. But I think we can all agree that Bitcoin is the mother chain. People want to use it for lots of different purposes, but mostly because of the liquidity involved with Bitcoin. It's the largest chain and asset valuation, has the best branding, I think, of any chain out there. And so a lot of people want to think about like how we can get the different assets onto Bitcoin or vice versa, bring Bitcoin onto other chains. In order to talk about this, we're going to bring up Ahmad Akbara of Rootstock Labs, Robinson Berkey of Wormhole Foundation, and Alex Miller of Hero. Welcome all to the show. Alex, I want to start with you, just talking about Hero and how you guys think about interoperability. I mean, even this morning, you said that you were on a talk talking about like the TVL for some of these L2 multi-sig Bitcoin schemes that are popping up. But I'll give you the floor to talk about Hero first, and then let's delve into some of the new interoperability chains, whether it be Bitcoin L2s or different networks that are working with Bitcoin.
Yeah, so Hero is a dev tools company for building on Bitcoin. So we build tools both for the Bitcoin L1 and especially for L2s like stacks. So I think that interoperability in the Bitcoin world and how you think about chains built on top of Bitcoin is very different than a lot of other ecosystems, especially the Ethereum world where everything is built on top of EVM, and so you can just build using EVM things, right? And most EVM L2s look pretty similar to each other. Once you basically decide, is it a roll up or is it its own chain? There's only a couple real models that people are doing. Whereas if you look at the Bitcoin world, I mean, just look at the difference between the way Stacks is built versus the way that RSK is built, right? Naman, I'm sure could go into all kinds of technical depth about it that I can, but there's probably, I don't know, 10 different models between roll-ups, side chains, drive chains, merge mining. I literally can't even name all of them. So that gives a lot of different optionality in Bitcoin, which I'm also think, long term is also going to be really good for the security. Because it's going to let us test out a lot of different models, let users and experienced technical folks really poke at and figure out, hey, what is actually the best model for securing things with Bitcoin while providing that additional functionality that Bitcoin doesn't provide because it doesn't have compute in the L1 like something like Ethereum or Solana does.
Yeah, to that point, Ahmad, I want to bring you up and talk about Rootstock Labs, what you guys are doing. Rootstock is one of the older Bitcoin L2 schemes. I don't even know if you guys would define yourselves as a Bitcoin L2 necessarily. Can you walk out what Rootstock is, how you guys see yourselves being an asset within Bitcoin itself, and how you guys fit into like the scheme of all these different L2s or meta protocols on top of Bitcoin?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good to be here. At Rootstock Labs, we're building infrastructure that extends the capabilities of Bitcoin. Our mission is to provide developers with the tools to build on Bitcoin, support the growth of the Rootstock ecosystem, as well as expand the frontiers of decentralized technology. So we've been thinking about interoperability and developing and executing on bridges and integrations for a very long time. We do take a foundational or a first principles approach to bridging. And this is to echo what Alex mentioned. There's no one bridge to rule them all. There's going to be multiple flavors. It's like you're getting to a city. There's going to be the highway. There's going to be side streets. There's going to be rural areas. And really depends on your persona in that space. And each persona has different expectations from a UX, from speed, from trust, from assets, from availability, from tech savviness. So with that, we are building like a framework for all these types of bridges and swaps. The native one, which is the PowPeg bridge, is I'd say the oldest Bitcoin bridge so far since 2018. It's highly secure. It's based on the two-way peg protocol that the Rootstock Labs team has put, and other contributors has put a lot of efforts around it to ensure the multi-layered system of defense. It's highly secure, ultra secure. It ensures the consistent peg, which is one RBTC to one Bitcoin. And RBTC is obviously the Rootstock's native token to transact. And then we started adding complementary layers on top of it. One is what we call the flyover protocol, which is a faster kind of complementary protocol to the PowPeg for trust minimized Bitcoin transfers in and out of Rootstock. The protocol and the SDK is live and currently being integrated to applications that we're developing and others in the ecosystem as well. We're also working on interoperability with the Lightning Network via bolts. So we realize that Bitcoiners may come in from different areas, right? From the Bitcoin main chain, from the Lightning as well. So we want to position Rootstock as with bolts as a means for users to come in through Lightning. We're also looking at different cross chains and bridges. So Uniswap, Oku, Symbiosis, others that are being integrated, and some we're in discussions with as well as ongoing efforts with Runes, Taproot Asset Bridge. So if you look at it, I mean, there's different flavors. And this is what's great about this space. It's the diversity of the assets, the users, the funnels, inflows, and but at the primary thing, security is very embedded in the development at Rootstock Labs. And we have high security expectations as well with the partners we work with.
Robinson, I want to boot it over to you. Tell us a little bit about what Wormhole is up to in terms of Bitcoin. I think most people think of you guys in terms of like Ethereum and Solana networks. So for Bitcoin, how are you guys thinking about interoperability at the foundation?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, Will, Wormhole today connects, Ethereum and Solana networks. We actually connect over 30 blockchains today. I think that an important way to think about Wormhole as well, just kind of like a high level mental model for folks, is there's more or less two layers, right? There's this kind of messaging layer. Some people call it connectivity, transport, whatever. That we can use the highway analogies that we talked about, really just sharing state from machine to machine. And then up on top of that, we like to think about it in layers in this space, of course. But on top of that, you kind of have this asset layer, which is where 80% of the use cases are still today. So it's important to kind of really focus on that. And then a lot of people think about interoperability through that lens. But I think it's important to think about the messaging layer is just as important, if not more. When we think about Bitcoin and Bitcoin L2s, it's definitely an area of focus. I think there's maybe a few points to make here. Number one, I think Bitcoin as an asset, which is no surprise to anyone listening, but is extremely in extreme high demand and is extremely trusted. And so what I mean by that is when we think about all of DeFi, let's say outside of the Bitcoin land, if you will, all these DeFi applications want to figure out a way to how do we get BTC in some form, some derivative form, to our application, whether it's using it as like a base asset in their AMM, a collateral asset in their borrow lend. And so there's this kind of like one use case of bringing that asset into, let's call it like the Ethereum, Move, Cosm, Wasm worlds, and having it kind of like proliferate within DeFi. Users today want some sort of yield or to use their assets somehow. So that's like one bucket that where Wormhole comes in and helps a lot. And now the other I'd say is actually connecting the users on these other networks, so Ethereum, these Move networks, Cosm, Wasm, to this kind of like growing Bitcoin stack space, if you will. And I think it's extremely important for, obviously there's a ton of liquidity or within BTC itself, but there's a lot of users and there's a lot of liquidity outside these networks too. So, the simplest way is to think about liquidity coming out and liquidity coming in, and we see it as our job to help with both of that. A few of the like bigger blockers, I think, are virtual machines, right? As we kind of use different virtual machines, those are hard for bridges to or interoperability protocols to keep up with. If we think about like the interop space outside of, let's say, Bitcoin land, Wormhole today I think spans the most virtual machines. I think it's 5. Well, actually, I know it's 5. And when we think about other interop protocols, it's much less. So I think it's important to keep that top of mind when designing your stack. Like, how do you connect to the broader DeFi ecosystem?
Okay, I think we lost Robinson for a moment, so I'm going to throw it over to Alex. Alex, tell me a little bit about how you think about demand for certain protocols at the moment. I mean, Hero, since you guys are more of like a tech house, if I can kind of say it that way, and feel free to correct me. You guys work on a lot of different projects and protocols. Where are you seeing the demand at the moment? We just had the Runes launch. We just had the Halvening. Ordinals, BRC20 is our thing of the last year, but there's still high demand there. Lots of L2s launching. Where are you kind of seeing like the trends move for demand and building at the moment?
Yeah, so there's obviously, as I think there will be until the end of time, there is insatiable demand for meme coins. People absolutely love them. Obviously, you saw the runes launch. BRC20s were already huge before that. On Stacks, they're back in December kicked off STX 20s and Stacks RCs, like just SRCs. People just cannot get enough of meme coins, and I think actually, while meme coins are sort of like a very fun and silly thing, it actually reflects the greater desire to both, well, A, gamble, and B, transact. I think it goes to the exact same motivation that is like the reason, the only thing that's the number one thing that's found really good product market fit in crypto is stable coins, right? People just want to be able to transact back and forth. So I think long term, there's like amazing potential around larger smart contracts. And, especially the thing I always talk about is like, I'm here for the global borderless legal and financial system. And I think that's still where we're fundamentally going. But like the thing that apparently is going to get us there is meme coins and JPEGs on it. I think the thing that's also been really heavily in demand right now is the provenance of Bitcoin. Like that is the reason that people are back here and building and excited about building the Bitcoin world, is that Bitcoin, as you said, is the mother chain, the OG chain, whatever, it is the thing where everyone knows it, they trust it, it's got more holders, it got more asset value, it's the thing your weird uncle asks you about at Thanksgiving dinner. Like it is the thing that everyone knows. And so having the provenance of your things tying back to that really just makes them more valuable and more desirable than I think on any other chain. The question is, how do we provide as good a development experience as, say Solana has, right? Solana's got like a way better developer experience than Bitcoin today, if only because, it's really aggravating if you're trying to deploy a contract and see if it works, having to wait somewhere between 10 minutes and an hour and a half for it to deploy out because your chain is linked to Bitcoin blocks. Like that's a big reason that, the Stacks ecosystem is in the middle of the Nakamoto launch right now, which moves from being 1-to-1 with Bitcoin blocks to being 10-second blocks, because we just saw this demand from people who are like, look, I want to be building in Bitcoin, but there needs to be a stronger, better developer experience so that people can actually build these apps that will bring over users and get them building it out.
Love that. Ahmad, I actually just want to throw that right to you and maybe get a response to what Alex is talking about there. From a rootstock perspective, the things that you guys have been working on for years at this point, how have you seen the developer space unfold, whether that be stuff outside of rootstock or stuff you guys are building within the company?
Wow, yeah. The one thing I love about this space is the diversity of the ideas and mindset. I like how Alex talked about that meme coins. I mean, this is great. It gives, especially in the early stages, the ideas and how we can test out different bridging and interoperability and use cases, and to have our platforms be battle tested and what the appropriate tooling is. So one thing that we've been investing on in the past year or so is around of course, tightening and ensuring that bridge security is top notch. Because we see all the, like you alluded, I mean, we see a lot of hacks that have been happening and unfortunately continue to happen to bridges. And for us, the user experience and the security are something that we invest in a lot, from mindshare research and security perspective. The other thing that we've been focusing on is around developer tools. So how do we make it easy for new developers to join the Bitcoin development ecosystem? And what are the tooling? And since we are an EVM compatible chain, so we're able to leverage different EVM tooling that's already out there, battle tested, Ethereum and other ecosystems as well, to deploy at rootstock, so that developers can deploy their applications from 0 to 1 in extremely less time, very efficient and very effectively in tools that they are familiar with, already tested, etc. And then with the bridging as well, one thing that we are now recently been focused on is around the BitVM initiatives. So I'm sure this is one of the hot things that has been popping up. And just recently, just yesterday, we announced that BitVM X initiative proposal. We have a website already available there, bitvmx.org. And we're planning to announce that. Sergio is our chief scientist, going to talk about it in the Bitcoin Plus Plus conference next week in Austin, as well as publish the white paper. So this is very exciting for not only Rootstock, but also the entire L2 ecosystem, because this is going to be chain agnostic and it's going to be open source, getting mindshare from across different developers, cryptographers, researchers in this space.
Love it. Robinson, welcome back. We want to boot it over to you to talk about demand really quickly, since you guys sort of sit in the middle of all these different chain ecosystems. For Bitcoin specifically, where are you seeing demand? Is it from Solana network? Is it from the Ethereum network? Are you seeing like people come from different camps? Or is it within Bitcoin itself? Maybe even like new users. So I'll let you take that where it is, but where's demand coming for interoperability on Bitcoin?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about that. I definitely was probably talking at the wall here for 30 seconds. So appreciate you all being patient. But yeah, and I just want to round out on what I was saying before, and it will tee into demand. But we do see ourselves as kind of this highway going both ways, which I think is important, and it's important to just let that happen and be as permissionless as possible. Some people want try and get more TVL, which is fine, but I think case in point, and Ahmad mentioned this earlier around Uniswap, obviously coming to Rootstock, and how you need some sort of way to share state between where Uniswap's home chain is and governance votes that's happened there, with its remote deployments. So we're already seeing kind of this cross pollination, and our role is really to like abstract the kind of like chain to chain stuff as much as possible and make it easier for the user. But when it comes to demand, I think we're seeing demand on both sides. I can say very specifically like chains top of mind that we've spoken with many times about, hey, we're really interested in getting Bitcoin here as part of the AMM, or like I said, for their borrow lend, etc. Those chains are Cosmos chains. I know Osmosis is really focused on this. Solana is really focused on this. There are L2s that want BTC, whether it's PerpDex or AMM, etc. So I would say actually, we're seeing demand everywhere, but specifically Solana L2s and Cosmos chains for the most part on our end. So yeah, I think I think we'll continue to see that. However, it'll be interesting to see how it flows back to the chains, right? Users today only really have a few options when it comes to BTC and in DeFi, right? There's a few decentralized solutions which are great, and then there's kind of BitGo, and a lot of people, BitGo is great. Some people say BitGo kind of goes against their ethos of why they hold Bitcoin in the first place. That's an opinion for the user. But I think just having those options is important. But I think we'll start to see a lot of the flow go back as these chains come live within the kind of Bitcoin ecosystem, because these chains want the TVL for themselves too. And we're starting to already see that. I know there's a few chains that have points programs incentivizing like more Bitcoin on their chains, etc. So there's going to be kind of a push and pull both ways. So it'll be interesting to see where it ends up.
Awesome. Okay, so we only have about 2 minutes left here. We're going to do a fast round, so 15, 20 seconds each for your answer. Alex, to you first. What should Bitcoiners prioritize when they're building out these systems? What's the first thing that comes to mind, whether it be from infrastructure to the ethics of building these systems out? How would you encourage people to build out these systems?
Yeah, decentralization and security. That's the whole thing that has underpinned Bitcoin from the beginning. If you're going to build Bitcoin assets, if you're going to build Bitcoin bridges, like that is the thing that matters and will be accepted by the user base.
Ahmad, same question to you.
Yeah, I have to echo what Alex said, decentralization, security, and there's no cutting corners here. There's no shortcuts. We have to get it right.
And Robinson, I'll give you the last word, so you get a few more seconds here.
Well, I can't not say decentralization and security at this point. So I'll just say that yes, but I think it's important to understand like what are the end goals for what you're building. And then for instance, if those end goals lead you into kind of cross-pollinating with the broader on-chain ecosystem, if you will, what does it look like to gain quick adoption there? Like, and I mean that at like an infrastructure level, like how are you working with oracles? How are you working with bridges? Thinking about what their like hurdles may be in order to integrate with you, because this will all affect go to market. So keeping that stuff top of mind is important.
Awesome. So that was thinking about interoperability on Bitcoin. Alex, Ahmad, Robinson, thank you so much for joining us. We'll have more content in just a bit. Just a quick break. We'll throw it to Kyle, and then more on Build on Bitcoin. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
You.